All right. Welcome, Richard, to the Real Estate Success Podcast. Thanks for being here today.
I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Same. I appreciate you giving us so much time. So let's just jump in. Why don't you tell myself and the listeners a little bit about who you are personally and professionally?
Awesome. So I am originally from California, born and raised, and I'll probably go into how I got over here. But I am married. We just celebrated our 14-year anniversary.
Wow. Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. But I guess I'll just jump right into it. What brought me over here, I was in the Navy, got stationed out here, met my wife, and went back to California for a little bit with some more property management and real estate, and then came back this direction. Currently, I want to say just rolled into, but it's been a little over 8 months already, where I've transitioned into the managing broker for our office out of our Chesapeake office at
awesome.
137 Mount Pleasant and 628 Cedar Road, which is actually the office that I got my license and kind of grew up through the ranks. So it's kind of been full circle. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a high level of the story, but there's a lot there.
Yes.
So tell us so you clearly were in the Navy for a bit, like you said. When you were in the Navy, was the thought to do real estate afterward? I feel like those are two very different worlds.
Completely different.
So how did you get from A to B? Let's just start there.
Yeah. So I was a jet engine mechanic, did search and rescue. I was an aircrewman on an H-3. So completely different from real estate and customer service.
Yeah. Wow.
After I got out, I took about a 3-month break, and I kind of just sat at home because I was going on every deployment. And kind of took that break and said, I'm just going to relax a little bit. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to make some money and do some different things. So my dad's he still works for the Housing Authority County of Monterey in California. And he was a maintenance guy and now has transitioned into development and all that stuff. So definitely someone I look up to. But he's like, hey, there's a position with property management or an assistant manager. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll check that out. And so it was really neat where it was assisted living. So Monterey County, Housing Authority County of Monterey, which we have a housing authority here. It kind of works the same way. But they help put these programs and take advantage of these programs for those who need some subsidy help. So I did public housing, Section 8, tax credit. In California, we have migrant farm worker housing. And so all of that I did for a few years. And so I kind of just went from one to the other and got involved with real estate. It was very rewarding. Obviously, there's a lot of paperwork. We didn't have to deal with any type of marketing because we had a 5-year waiting list with people needing homes. And so one of the important things was making sure, attention to detail and making sure you have all of your requirements and verifications, because it kind of depended on you to make sure you did a good job to make sure that you can help that person qualify and then get a home for their family. So really a lot of pressure to be correct and help others. But that was a lot of fun. During that time, you're helping those families get through some rough times, and you've seen them kind of depart and do their own thing, and then even go into some home ownership as well. But I did that for a few years, and then...
And when was this? Was this like 2000...
No, that's a good question. 15, I didn't talk about
10,
that. Yeah, no, this was actually 2006.
Okay.
So 2006 is when I got out of the Navy and started doing that, some sort of real estate. And my wife and I did the long distance relationship for a little bit. So we're flying back and forth, East Coast, West Coast.
And were you married at the time?
No.
Oh,
no.
It was 14 years.
Yeah.
So
we did that, saved up some money there, and then made the transition back to the East Coast. So I was stationed here in Norfolk. So I knew it a little bit, and I actually went back into real estate, but still on the property management side. So I did leasing for a local company here. I did that for 3 or so months, and then became a leasing consultant manager. So then I did training on leasing, and then I jumped into a property manager role where my job was kind of finding and looking at the apartment complexes that had issues and kind of the problem childs, or there was one that wasn't doing so well, and we were a third-party property management company, and so we'd go in there and say, hey, if you hire us, we can, work on your budget, start making you some money. So that was around 2008. And I did that for a while, and then finally got my real estate license in 2012.
Okay. I have so many questions.
Big gap.
I'm like, so you met your wife. Your wife was here in Norfolk when you were stationed here.
Yeah, she's local. She's from the area.
Okay.
Yep.
Go back to Monterey, get a lot of great, valuable property management experience. But like you said, there wasn't much. It was really rewarding, but it wasn't very sales in that regard because they have their pipeline of, waiting list.
5+ years.
you move back to the East Coast and then get into more private property management
For profit.
world.
Yep.
And then move your way into a place where you're consulting for like the apartment complex or basically the landlord being like, hey, I need to figure out how to make money with this property. And that was in, you said 2008, which is sort of like historically one of the worst years for real estate in general. But I'm not even really familiar with what that looked like from a property management perspective. Obviously, it was more the mortgage, ownership side that was a problem. But what was that like for you being not totally green in real estate, but only a handful of years in when all of a sudden housing markets are going crazy and,
Yeah, so it was multifamily property management. So it wasn't individual homes. So it was, one apartment complex, 200 units, 600 units, 400 units. And we had this going on impacting the real estate market, and people were losing their homes. And unfortunately, that was affecting their credit, and they couldn't go rent a home because now their credit was just messed up. So there was a lot of different things that we did with security deposits and just things that we could kind of help, because there were still people that were, again, moving to different areas that were maybe a little more budget friendly. But it was a dynamic to where we had investors overseeing this, and we worked for our investors. And so it was looking at the budget, looking at the cost, looking at the vacancy rates, making sure that we kept those moving in the right direction. And unfortunately, and even as a real estate agent, a lot of times people go, I need to save money. And some of the first things that they take away is marketing, like their outreach.
Totally.
And so that was one thing that I kind of jumped into that, again, was completely opposite of nonprofit home. So 2008, 9 and 10, you start using a lot more social media and to trying to attract that tenant at that time. So that was one thing that, in order to save, $30,000 in marketing, I kind of took it upon myself to learn these techniques, try to keep up our vacancy rate.
Which was also like the dawn of social media.
Correct.
So social media wasn't what it is today by any means back in 2008.
Yeah. So it was kind of learning through trial and error.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, also a lot of fun because I had no problem with contracts. I had no problem with, de-escalating situations. So now it was marketing. And that's one thing that tied really well into my resale and new construction businesses. I absolutely enjoy marketing. So
which that was something you originally said of like, the nonprofit world, you didn't have to do that. So sounds like 2008, people are cutting their marketing budget. So you're finding ways to market just to, succeed in your job. And then, 2012, you're moving in. You said 2012, you're moving into resale. And
2012 is when I got my real estate license.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what was that like now moving into a very entrepreneurial, eat what you kill space, having to market, having to, kind of go out and build your own path forward, which you kind of were doing in the property management, it sounds like, but, entering into you are the licensed agent role.
Yes. So that was, I think, one thing that I absolutely did like is you're kind of capped at property management. You get a salary, you're taking phone calls, and that's it. You have some bonuses on keeping vacancy, making budget, things like that. But I looked at, how I created these reports, how I stayed on budget, how I came up with these marketing ideas, and we would have to put all of this together and present it to an investor and present it to our owners. So I kind of grabbed that same mentality and put it up against mine, because as an entrepreneur, you're running your business, you have a budget, and if you treat it like a business, then it's going to go hopefully the right direction. So it's not a hobby or anything like that. And so even me making a phone call to interview different brokerages, which you find out later, like, oh, it's not really an interview process. It's like, hey, you got your license, come work with us. But I was making phone calls and trying to interview. And, one of the stories I have is I called 3 different brokerages, and the only one that picked up, and I would have a shout out for Christian, he picked up with, at that time, Rose and Womble, and he answered my questions. I met up with my broker at that time, and I came on board and took it from there.
And now you're the managing broker.
And now I'm the managing broker. Yeah, I don't think we released that here, but full circle, that's where it kind of is where I'm at right now. I just hit this mic. That's kind of where I'm at right now is I got my license there, grew up with a lot of these agents, and now, again, full turn, I'm the managing broker for our 2 offices.
That's awesome. Okay, so you jump in to the resale side, get your license, start interviewing brokerages. one picked up.
Yeah.
And now you're off to the races there. Were you on a team? Were you totally solo? Did you have mentorship? Like, what did that look like for you? Because obviously the first few years of anybody with a real estate license, there's just so much coming at you, and you're trying to figure out how do I even do this?
Yeah.
You know?
I think one of the benefits with me having, at that point, 6 years of experience with some sort of real estate really helped out. So I wasn't worried about contracts. I wasn't worried about fair housing. I wasn't worried about property management and so on. And then I enjoyed marketing. So at that time, it was, I got my license, I got to get business. Which obviously that's everyone's worry also. But the other stuff was good. So I did I was on duty calls. I was doing open houses every weekend. I was just putting myself out there. So one kind of thing going back is, even though I was stationed here and my wife's from here, coming back, I didn't know anybody. So it was just like starting over. And so all of my family and friends are in California. So it was, I have no business. How can I get business? And kind of just going back to the basics is making phone calls, cold calling, door knocking, which again, don't always enjoy, but you're looking to get business. And so starting off, there's a couple teams in my office that are still there and huge hitters. I'm like the Wilkie real estate team. David Wilkie, he was actually my broker for just a little bit, and then he did his thing there. But he let me sit in on some of his team meetings and some of his cold calling and role playing. And so the cool thing is that everyone there was always willing to help. Me stepping into that office, which was still 2 different offices, I kind of, again, hit the ground running where I was presenting classes on, here's how you use Facebook to market yourself. Here's what I've done for my open houses and things like that. So right off the bat, I was kind of in training and sharing mode. And that's something that's always benefited me, just being an open book and helping those that need help to build their business.
Which is a really profound thing, because in any sales world, you're going to have people who kind of operate out of the scarcity mindset, which is like, I almost can't give away my secrets. Because if you are closing people using my marketing strategies, I'm somehow not getting those people, as opposed to having the abundance mindset, like what you're talking about, or the Wilkie team, where it's like, hey, you don't have to be on my team. Just come in, learn what I know, and there's enough out here for all of us. Like, if you get that person, wonderful. That you winning doesn't mean I lose necessarily. It's not a zero-sum game. It's, we can both win, and how can we rise the tide for the whole brokerage, which is, not all brokerages operate like that. Not all agents operate like that. So it's really cool that was your experience so early on, and that's kind of how you've operated. Even at the beginning, I'm imagining, you're a year or so in and you're like, well, this is how I use social media because I've been doing it since 2008. And this is now, 2014, 2015, that's really kicking off. So you mentioned you also do, you said new construction?
Yep.
So tell us about that.
Cool. So, and social media is actually what helped me grab those accounts. 2012 got my license, started open houses, using social media. Around 2016, I started kind of creating some posts, and I'm normally known as the Taco Realtor.
That's how I found you.
Yeah. And so, again, being from California, I'm Mexican. I was born and raised on tacos and salsa and all that good stuff. And so it would remind me of home. So I would go visit local spots. And we actually have a lot of great spots and local restaurants here that do an amazing job of doing amazing Mexican food. So I started taking photos and going, here's a great taco, and then post it. I also started taking photos of new construction homes and hey, you're a side agent. I'm sure you need a break. You need to go on vacation. If you go on vacation, give me a call. I'll sit here. I'll treat it just like an open house, and I'll market it, and they'll help me get some content, and then I'll give you a little bit of a break. But I'm not stealing your commissions or anything like that. And so I found out very early on that people love new construction and people love tacos. And so I just kept repeating.
The 2 things all people have in common.
Yeah, tacos and new construction. So I just kept reposting, finding new places, making little videos on new construction homes and tacos. I'm really lucky at this now Berkshire Hathaway, we have a huge new homes department. And so at that time, I reached out to our new homes manager and like, hey, I've been going through a lot of these. I actually started getting phone calls going, hey, if you need a break, call Richard. He'll learn about your neighborhood. He'll learn about your product. And then he can sit there, answer questions. And then, you can come back and, he's not taking your job. So I reached out to our new homes manager and said, hey, I'm interested in new construction. If there's ever an opportunity where you need another site agent, I'd love to do that. About a year passes by and I get an opportunity with a builder who's having some trouble with a site. And so they go ahead and introduce us. And I was actually kind of lucky where the house that I'm in was built by this builder. My in-laws and a couple friends have built with this builder. So when I went to go interview for the job, he's like, Richard, yeah, I already know you. You got the job. We love your social media. I know you're going to do a great job. And so we're like, oh, this is awesome. Well, I didn't get the job. So
oh no, what happened?
Yeah. So his dad was also an agent, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to give my dad one more chance. But the next one, I got you. So his dad grabbed it back, and he got it done. So it was great. And then we had an opportunity to get another site. I took over that site before we even had a model. And I knew, with him having his dad and his support system, I couldn't fumble the ball. I needed to do an amazing job. And so before we even finished our model, we had about 75% of it sold.
Wow.
So I was just rocking and rolling. I was selling stuff out of my car because we had no model. This was actually in North Carolina. And so that started a relationship with this builder and now developer to where I created and started growing my new constructions team while still doing my resale stuff. Around that time, I was like, okay, I can't be everywhere. So I started a team. And so I started a resale team and then a new homes team. And a few years after that, I actually became a new homes manager. And so I still had the new homes team. I was my own new homes manager and then my resale team and transitioned into, again, now the managing broker. So since 2016, I've been involved with new construction. On the development side, I've been on the Hurrah New Homes Committee. I've been a big part of that as well. It's knowing all or having all of these facets of real estate has really made me a well-rounded agent. So, I mean, I've seen almost everything.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I mean, going all the way back to Monterey, you're like,
Section 8, tax credit, all of that.
Yeah, like the public housing, the, property management, resale, new construction, even just being like first-time agent to managing teams to manager, I feel like you've got the experience on all fronts at this point.
Yes. So it kind of did build up because even going back to the property management side, I was a property manager and had a maintenance team and a leasing team. And so when I transitioned into, okay, I need to start a real estate team, kind of the same product or aspect on there. And then new homes things, kind of the same setup. So yeah, it's been a pretty good range. So I'm normally, if you have anything, if you're curious about what's happening, say in Moyoc, that's actually where I live. I'm in North Carolina, right over the border. I attend a lot of our planning meetings, same thing with Chesapeake. So I like to kind of, before you even see a sign on that piece of dirt, I normally know what's going out there. And that's one thing that I actually try to present to a lot of our agents. Like, hey, if you want to be in front of the game and, right now inventory is super low, new construction's adding some inventory here. The way to win this is go to these planning meetings because the builder and developer is going to have to provide an application and product almost 5 years in advance before they even start digging. So now if your buyer's in the process of looking, you can go, well, I know there's another site coming up. It's about 2 years from now or it's about a year from now. Let's start prepping for some of that stuff. And a lot of people don't go that deep into what's coming along. Yeah. And so you can pick up a lot of business that way.
That's awesome. I'm struck by how many hats you currently wear because you're still producing and managing broker. And I'm assuming still have your individual teams.
Yeah, we've had some movement. So like even the new construction development side, that's, we have a new homes manager for that. And then going into the resale team, that's kind of getting changed a little bit as well. So they're still under my brokerage. So obviously they're in my office. But that is one thing where I'm trying to kind of move that direction where being a managing broker and going back real quick, one of the reasons why I'm successful is being able to provide a service to my clients, picking up the phone, basic stuff. I do the same thing for now, who are my clients, which are my agents. So I've done some things and put some just movement in there to where you have me. You don't have to worry about me competing against you. I'm here to help you be successful, and by you being successful makes me successful. So there has been a big shift on that. It's not just I'm a producing or competing broker, getting away from that to go ahead and help maintain my team.
Yeah,
which is now 105 agents.
Wow. The idea, it sounds like it's the idea of like, at this point, me being available to you, like my team my agents are now also my clients.
Yep.
So that's raising the whole tide. Like I help you, it helps me. We're now all incentivized on the same side of the table.
Yep.
But how do you balance your time on that? Because again, just more, it feels like over time you've just added more responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like even your role with Hurrah, which for listeners, that's the Hampton Roads Realtor Association, you know, on their new construction committee. It's like, how are you balancing all of that when I feel like many people struggle to just balance their own day-to-day production and whatnot?
I live by my calendar. I have, if you look at my phone right now, I mean, I just have multiple calendars all over the place. So if it's not in my calendar, I'm not showing up, unfortunately. I just used to, and honestly, until recently, and my wife and a few of my teammates were like, how do you remember all this stuff? You know, how do you know you have this appointment over here? And I was like, I just do, and I plan for it, but I do have a lot going on. And so me having my calendar over the last couple of years, I've just been super buried in there to where you have an appointment, put it in there. Here's the link if you want to schedule an appointment. So as long as I have that, I mean, I'm able to go wherever I need to go. Yeah. So I kind of don't think about the next appointment. I just look down and be like, okay, I got to be over here in 30 minutes. I got to be over here in an hour. And I like being on time. I like being early. So I don't like being late or anything like that. So again, being on my calendar is what I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Helps me out.
Going back to one of the things you said earlier, you said it very briefly, but I want to highlight it because I feel like it's profound for any agent, is if I begin to treat this as a business, it will go in the direction of a business. If I treat it like a side hustle or a hobby, it's going to grow like a side hustle or a hobby. But what I find when I speak to realtors, one of the first questions I ask is, raise your hand if you think of yourself as a small business owner. Truly, it's about only like 10 to 20% of a room will raise it. Obviously, it depends on which room you're in.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in a room full of managers and brokers, it's going to be different than, you know, new members or like new agents. But I find that to be a stark difference because according to the IRS, everyone here is self-employed.
Yes.
They're all 1099. But there's those that are coming into this with a business mindset, like I'm building a business here. I'm a business owner. And so then naturally they take advantage of different opportunities. They structure their time and their business certain ways. And there's others who just view it as, this is my job. I have flexibility and I just have to figure out how to pay my taxes. What would you say to that? Like, what prompts someone to think one way or another? And because I'm with you, I do feel like those who are taking advantage of the opportunities are the top producers, are the ones that have really built themselves into a successful place. But sometimes many people are coming in just thinking, I'm going to have more flexibility over my time and not taking advantage of that. So I guess just speak to that because you mentioned it and I thought that's something worth highlighting.
Yeah. I think it's looking at what is important to you. And I think that's one thing that I look at even with helping my agents and we're doing a business plan. Make sure you do a business plan. It's looking like what's your goal? You know, I have some agents that have been doing it for quite a while and they're like, you know what, I'm slowing down. I want to do five deals a year. I'm totally fine with 5. If I get more, that's cool, but I want to at least get 5. I have others that go, if I'm not doing over 50 transactions, I'm drowning. If I'm not doing over 100, I'm drowning. And so everyone has their own kind of benchmark and we kind of build off of that. And so, you know, my first couple of years, my benchmark was I need to make money. I was like, I wake up in the morning and I go, what am I going to do today to make money?
Yeah, to put food on the table.
Yeah, it's either a post or I'm door knocking, wearing my name tag, even basic stuff like that. And you kind of go from that where I'm just going full force the first few years. And then after that, I'm like, well, I'd like to take a vacation even vacations are super stressful. But now I've learned to kind of manage that a lot better to where I can go, okay, let's go ahead. You know, we're talking about going on an Alaskan cruise. And she's like, what days work for you? I'm like, whatever, I'll make it work. Like, I'll do it. You know, we went to Japan a few years ago. We've done a lot of different trips to where back in the day I would just just completely stressed out. I'm like, I need my phone. I need to be available. And so that's all, again, just depending on how you're running your business, kind of want to be you want to have some flexibility. You want to build your business that way. And then you also obviously need to make money. When it comes to having flexibility, you really don't. I live by my calendar, going with that. But there's things that you can do to build that business properly so that you do have some flexibility, like listings. You have listings. You don't have to be at that listing every single day. You know, when you're in new construction, you have 60 listings. You can handle 60 listings under contract. No big deal. Not even have an assistant. You have more than 3-4 buyers that want to see a house that same day. You're struggling. And you have to have some more teammates on there. So the way you want to have your business, obviously you have to be able to build it that way, and there's different things. And that is one thing that I do like about real estate, is that there's, obviously you've heard, so many facets to real estate that you can build your business different ways. And so in adding new construction and adding resale, I've been able to really, a lot of times you have kind of like a roller coaster where middle of the year you have more closings, end of the year starts to slow down. Middle of the year you're selling new construction stuff. Well, it's going to take 8 months, 6 months to a year to build. True. And so now that's closing on the times when your resale is slow. So you have November, December, January, February. And then by that time that's done, now you have your resale coming in, and that's now the spring market and summer market. So it all goes back to how you want to build your business. And when you don't have everything in one basket, it allows you to kind of spread things out, kind of breathe, and take things as they come.
Totally. I think that's really wise. And you were saying before we signed on, before we started recording, the idea that having those two, because of that feature, streamlines, like smooths out your income, gives you a little bit more stability, because even when we do planning for realtors, we're like, all right, we're going to build a steady pipeline for that 4-month desert and winter that many people end up experiencing because they're buying and selling agents for resale. They don't have either, property management that's providing some stability or like new construction or rentals or anything like that. What surprised you the most about your journey in real estate? I mean, you've had a phenomenal journey from getting out of the military, and you've seen so many aspects of real estate and are now incredibly successful. But what surprised you the most on this journey?
I think just all the things we can do. And so like, I know you kind of going back, we're like, you have a lot of things on your plate. I feel like every couple of years I need to add something to it. Like, okay, I've done this. What can I do different to make it more fun? Add more things to it. And I mean, even starting off, even on the property management side, didn't even register to, be part of a full development and, selling something or managing 8 developments at the same time and selling those things, or helping someone buy land and then figure out what's kind of the best use. What do you think we can sell it for? Who do you think are our main buyers going to be? I'm about to invest, $200 million. And you're like, okay, let me see what I can do to help you out.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking, okay, I just need to sell a $250,000 house and I'm good, and I'll just do a few of those. But just the range and the opportunities that when you wake up in the morning and go, what can I do today to grow my business or make money? It just opens up an opportunity to do that. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, is there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of different avenues and roads to still get to a successful situation.
Yeah. Honestly, that makes it sound very exciting too. You're like, I had someone else say, every time I hit a new peak in real estate, it almost just opens up a new peak. Like I get to the top of the mountain and now I just see that there's another top over here doing something different. And, where will I be in 10, 15 years? I don't know, but my biggest deal isn't done yet. And, I've got the opportunity to grow this in so many different ways, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
What was the low point for you, if there was one?
Yeah, no, I think they always kind of seem to happen. You also have your high points. But like in my first few years, I was working nonstop. I was showing up to the office every single day. I was signing up for every duty call. I was signing up for every open house. And so it was I enjoyed it, but it was taking all of my time. And so finding that out and then taking a step back and going like, I can't even take a vacation and not be completely stressed out, to going back and starting to go, okay, it's not going to fall apart. And it's kind of even going back to like you go into like the military, where if you don't show up that day, there's someone else that's gonna help out. The helicopter's not gonna go down.
Yeah.
There's always
Lord willing.
Yeah. And so me not showing up one day for a good reason and making sure that, you know, you have a plan A, B, and C, you have a backup. With some prepping, you're gonna be fine. You know, it's not the end of the world. No one died. So that's kind of the low point. Is I was just working nonstop. And then that kind of light bulb moment was like, I can do these things, still be successful. And when I made that transition, I was still even more successful and multiplying that with technically doing less work. So I don't know if that kind of answered that one slow, but then
no, it does. And it feels like the iconic, there was a book called The E-Myth that was written that talks about kind of the entrepreneur journey is, you know, I'm going to start this and I'm going to have so much freedom and flexibility. And then you're like, why am I working more than I was before? And to take time off, nothing happens. Like if I'm not doing it, no one's doing it.
Yeah.
And that actually can be very stressful. And so then you have to end up kind of building a team or building yourself into a place where, like you said, hey, I can invest in my team, but if I'm sick one day, activity is still happening.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, a hard lesson for many entrepreneurs to learn. So this is a podcast about success. But if you just go out on the street and ask anybody, you know, how do you define success? You're going to get a different response from each person. So for you, how do you define success?
I think it's on a kind of a daily point almost. So like the way, even today, having a sales meeting and then getting texts from my agents going, that was a great meeting. I learned a lot. I didn't know that we had that resource. Or so there's little things like that that will make my day, and that's a win. And so then I just do something else the next day, that's a win. So taking care of my clients or agents or wife or parents, it's always going to be I've won. And so it is kind of, you know, growing up, you know, now I was talking to somebody, I was living in California and I lived in an area where there was like drive-bys and stuff like that. Like, oh, we didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, it was like a gang member capital of whatever. You know, even with, you know, our parents and my dad who, you know, went back to school to get his GED and then get his degrees and then become a general contractor and then on the development side. So I had a lot of great mentors and parents and family members that kind of helped us go in the right direction. And so I've seen just a big range of what things can do. And so even, you know, paying off a car and, you know, paying off a home or buying some more land or being able to, you know, install an AC unit for your parents. All of those things are just something that I absolutely enjoy. So, yeah, I would say that's success is where you can help somebody and not think twice about it. Yeah, sure, we'll take care of it.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, Richard, this has been awesome. Thank you for giving us your time, sharing your wisdom with us. Yeah, just thanks for being here today.
Oh, awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.